This meeting is being recorded.
Okay. So everyone, Shelby Lieber, she, her pronouns, serves as the survivor coordinator for the Ohio Alliance to End Sexual Violence, or OAESV, the federally designated sexual violence coalition for the state of Ohio. Before joining OAESV, she held multiple roles at a dual domestic violence and sexual violence shelter in Ohio, gaining extensive frontline experiences in survivor support. Shelby is a nationally credentialed advocate through the National Organization for Victim Advocacy and holds advanced standing as a registered advocate in the state of Ohio. Throughout her career, she has delivered presentations to a wide range of organizations and programs on topics including strangulation and sexual violence advocacy. She also facilitates discussions on the challenges survivors face following disclosure. In her current role, Shelby provides direct advocacy services to survivors in 15 Ohio counties that lack a local rape crisis center, ensuring access to critical support and resources. Welcome, Shelby.
Hello. Hello, everyone. Like Connor said, my name is Shelby Lieber. I use she, her pronouns. And I am in the very, very cold state of Ohio. I think this morning was 16 degrees. We might be a little warmer right now. And it was snowing. So I don't know about y'all. I love winter on Christmas, but any other time I would like it to be sunny and 75. So before my work here at OAESV, I was in a dual shelter that had 136 beds. I was a caseworker, as well as the crisis intervention specialist. So I would see survivors coming in right as they were coming in, whether that was law enforcement dropping them off, they were coming in from a hospital, or they were coming in on their own fruition. And then I moved to the caseworker to be their case manager, help them get resources and all that fun stuff. So my role changed a little bit when I came to a coalition because we are one in 11 coalitions that has a direct service person. So in the whole United States, there's only 10 other people that do my job, or 11 other people that do my job. So it's a really unique role. Normally advocates maybe cover I'll give them 4 counties here in the state of Ohio. I cover 16. And the way that that looks a little different is that my role, I don't do hospital calls because it would be unethical and not fair for me to be like, hi, survivor, you just went through all of this, and now you have to wait 4 hours for me to come and be your advocate. So I do the follow-up, and I really heavily rely on our forensic nurses, because they are able to give that information for the survivor to have contact with me. So that's a little bit about me. Fun facts. I'm a mom of a 4-year-old. He is currently napping. Thank the Lord. And a fur mama, and I am based in Northeast Ohio. So, little fun facts about me. We're going to get started today. As we get started, obviously, you see the presentation title. This is not a very, yes, Rhonda, 5. I knew it. I knew there was going to be 1. So in this presentation today, you are going to see we're going to talk about strangulation. We're going to talk about sexual violence and strangulation. We're also going to talk about some statements from the National Coalition for Sexual Freedom, because we have heard as advocates, that when a survivor presents to law enforcement, even sometimes hospitals or to prosecutors, the biggest question is like, well, that's just a kink. So we're going to talk about that. There is going to be times that you might be triggered. If you are triggered or if you are feeling like, hey, cool presentation, but I just need a minute, please take a minute. Yes, this is a great presentation, but guess what? We're also recording. So if you need to step away and take care of yourself, step away and take care of yourself. If you're like, Shelby, I'm going to come back for your last slide so I can get your contact information and just call you and get like a debrief, call me. I would rather you take care of yourself than sit through something that could trigger you. I'm an advocate first before a presenter. Um, so that's a little bit about today. The other thing is that I do use a prop. So her name is Bertha. I will bring her out. Her name is Bertha. She will be used today. So if you get triggered or anything like that by seeing a mannequin head being strangled, please cover your eyes, turn away, mute me, turn me off, whatever you need to do. I have just learned that it is easier on my body and my own triggers in survivorship to use Bertha than to do it on myself. So without that, we're going to get started today. So one of the things that we have to acknowledge that strangulation is lethal. Whether it's at that point it's lethal, there is lasting health impacts that is lethal, but it is lethal. This is the first time you are strangled, you are 7 times more likely to die from it. So I can't do this presentation without showing the survivors and the people that have lost their lives to strangulation that if someone would have just believed them, they might still be here. So I dedicate my presentation to Rachel Price. If anyone is in the Ohio area, this was a big news story. Her sister actually works alongside of me in my brain injury work and sexual violence work, and she advocated her butt off for her sister. She went to court and said this person is going to do it again. She did everything right that as advocates we are taught to do. And Rachel did everything right. And then unfortunately, a little bit ago of this year, I think it was in October, which is a Domestic Violence Awareness Month, he murdered her. And everyone was in shock of like, why did you let him go? So I dedicate it to Rachel because she deserves to be here. Her children deserve to have a mother. Her classmates deserve to have a wonderful teacher. And like I can't, this is the reason why we have to have the conversation. So what are we going to do today? We're going to introduce ourselves in the chat because there is 43 of us, and I want to know where you're coming from. Is it cold there? And if any of you are like, no, it's 80, I might cry, but that's okay. I love that for you. Um, we are going to agree that what is said here, we want to treat it like Vegas. So if you are sharing a story in the chat, please don't take that out of here. Like this is something that I want to create as Vegas. If it's said here, it stays here in the chat. Please take the knowledge, but leave the personal connections. What is strangulation? And why does it matter? Because I will tell you, as someone who has been directly affected by this is a question that I hear also too sometimes by college students, by law enforcement that say, well, why does it matter that I know about this? It's really important that we know about this. Advocacy for survivors of special populations. So we're going to talk about kiddos. We are going to talk about military. We're going to talk about elderly. While you all are working on a campus, there is 18 to, older students coming through your doors. It is good to know these things and to know the signs of strangulation so you can effectively advocate for those survivors. And then where do we go next from here? So after you sit in a presentation with me for an hour and some change, where do we go from here? Do we just go, oh, that was a cool presentation, bye? Or do we do something tangible with it? After today, you should be able to analyze the role of an advocate and where they go in advocating for a survivor of strangulation, examine how the crime of strangulation isn't a one-size-fits-all. And I will talk about it when we get close to it, but this is not a one-size-fits-all crime. And then identify 1 to 3 tools to take back to your agency so you can start the conversation with survivors. I always put this here, just warning. Once again, we are going to talk about strangulation. We are going to talk about sexual violence. We are going to talk about, maybe some survivor stories. How I came into this work obviously was being from a survivor, and then I worked with survivors and they allowed me to use their stories within my training. So you will hear some of that in my presentation today. So if there is any point in time you need to check out, please check out. Please take care of yourself. Promise, I will not be mad. Okay, so what is strangulation? Strangulation is a form of asphyxia characterized by closure of the blood vessels and air passages of the neck as a result of external pressure. So please remember this word, external pressure on the neck. It also defines suffocation as intentionally, knowingly, or recklessly impeding the normal breathing of a person by covering their mouth and or nose of the person. So what that is saying by that suffocation is covering their mouth or their nose or both at the same time. We also see this with possibly putting pillows over their face or by a hand. So in the chat, I really, really would love you all to tell me how have you heard strangulation be described by? And these are a few that I have heard. So they choked me out. Remember that definition, external pressure on the outside of the neck. I was choked. Oh, it was nothing. They put a pillow over my face. They put their hands around my neck. They squeezed my neck. The biggest thing I always hear, I was choked out. That is the number one I hear. Or they put their hands on me. And then you have to go a little deeper into, okay, tell me where. And I want to remind you of that previous definition of strangulation is external pressure on the neck. So when you're choking, that means something is getting lodged internally in your neck. Strangulation is external. Now, always use what the survivor characterizes because we don't, teaching them when they're coming to you and saying, I was choked out, it's not a time to be like, no, 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 no. You need to use the word strangulation. That's not the time. The time to do that is saying, okay, you were choked out. Can you tell me more what happened? Can you tell me a little bit more about where did they put their hands? Did they, do you remember, all these certain things? And we'll go through that in later slides. One thing I will always say is language matters. Language matters so much. We live in a nation that has multiple different languages in it. You all work at colleges that have multiple different languages. So sometimes someone with limited English proficiency cannot interpret what strangulation means. They might have a different word for that, and the translator might not be able to translate that to you. So please remember that language is key here. So while we go into this slide, I want to remind you, I am not a nurse. I'm not a medical professional. I am an advocate. I am an advocate that has, this is my bread and butter. I love learning about this. I love teaching about this. I love talking about it because this conversation hasn't happened. And it's just starting to happen and it needs to happen more. So when you see these pictures of anatomies and necks, there are no pictures of like postmortem, anything like that. I don't need to traumatize y'all. This is a tough subject anyway. But I just want to start by saying like, I'm not a medical professional. I just know the structures of the neck very well because of my job. So there are 3 different forms of strangulation. So there is manual strangulation, where that involves a body part. So whether that is a hand, sorry, there's Bertha, a hand, an arm, a leg, but I'm not gonna do a leg because love y'all, but I am not that tall. This is the most personal. And I say that because if you think to the power and control wheel, strangulation is already the ultimate form of control. It is telling that person when they can take their next breath. By using your hand, you physically are telling that person when you can take their next breath. So hanging, this includes a ligature where the body weight is off the victim or of the victim forces the compression. So hanging, trigger warning, I will show what hanging looks like by my husband's belt. If anyone that's a trigger point for them, please look away. So ligatures, so the belt around the neck, normally you will see, sorry, I had to twist the belt around. So you'll see hanging like this. So the Bertha's neck, you would see the bruises on her neck, right under her ears going up. And then ligature obviously is something out using an outside object, so nothing on the body. This could be a belt, a hoodie string. Have even heard charger cords, things like that. So it is not just what we always hear of just a belt or a hand. Like there could be many things, especially with kiddos, with hoodies. So they're like pulling them back and like dragging them. That could cause strangulation. I also want to really highlight what Molly put in the chat. If anyone is watching it, Molly also hears clients minimize and confuse strangulation when it happens in sex, wanting to be sex positive, sometimes thinking they are kink shaming if judging someone's use of strangulation in sex without consent, discussion, and aftercare. So yes, I always, until this statement came out from the National Coalition of Sexual Freedom, which is in these slides, I always preface it as I'm not kink shaming. I do not want to kink shame you because you should be giving informed consent when you were doing this, and you should be doing what you want to do and be happy with that. But at the end of the day, are you having the conversation of, hi, I could cause brain damage, I could cause death, and is that true informed consent? And if there is also a lot of studies, and I really urge you all, and I can put it in the chat maybe when we're doing questions at the end for the website for the National Coalition for Sexual Freedom, because I think this is very important because that is a very big thing that we are hearing within the community of, well, it's just a kink, so it's consensual, when they're not really asking questions. Also, I will preface it before we go any further. I am a fun gal. So while this is a very hard subject, I am not going to be dull and meh about it, because this is something I'm passionate about teaching, and you hopefully will see my passion in that. But I don't want you to think I don't take this seriously. So just enjoy it. Love me. It's what we're here for. We're here to support each other, right? All right, so some more vessel anatomy. So the carotid artery, so you can occlude the carotid artery by strangulation. So your carotid artery is right here, right on Bertha. Oh, sorry, right here. That's a better view of her. Right on Bertha. So if you ever watch any medical shows like Grey's Anatomy, or I'm rewatching Scrubs because a new season is coming out, you always see them checking the pulse by their carotid artery. Amy, yes, I hope you're excited for the new season. I'm rewatching it all and it makes me remember how much I love the show. But so that is where they check the pulse of the patient going, oh, we still got a pulse. So that is your carotid artery. It only takes 11 pounds of pressure for 10 seconds to render you unconscious. And that's just if you're doing the carotid. So it's hard to see, but on Bertha, I am not pressing on her, oh my, bless America, jugular. So she's only getting pressed on her carotid. So it only takes 10 seconds and 11 pounds of pressure for me to occlude that. One thing that we always get worried of is in this field that if there aren't bruising, could there still be a dissection? So with a lot of people, people don't bruise the same. We all don't bruise the same. And it's silly to think that we do, especially people of color. I am a white woman. It is hard to say that me and a person of color could bruise the same. It's hard to say that myself and my son, who is 4, can bruise the same. So we get very worried when someone says, yes, I was rendered unconscious, and they don't have bruising to say, okay, we still need to advocate to make sure that we are getting a CTA and that we are making sure that they don't have a dissection, because a dissection could cause a stroke or death. So jugular vein, the jugular. I used to always, my biggest thing when I was in high school, I don't know where I got it from, was like, I'll just karate chop you in the jugular. And it's right, it is your vein. So your carotid runs here and it's here. So I always used to say that this was my jugular. It's not, it's your trachea. Fun fact. So when I was saying that when I was younger, I was like, oh man, I started doing this research and I was like, I sounded silly because that was not even my jugular vein. But it only takes 4.4 pounds of pressure. So remember that our carotid takes 11, our jugular takes 4.4. So these are not hardcore points of pressure. I bet you if I gave all of you right now, I forget the thing, but you squeeze it to see your grip strength, you would surpass that by 15 times. I'm not good at math. I'm an advocate, but it's going to be higher. You are going to get possibly 40 pounds of pressure by squeezing. So if it only takes 4.4 pounds of pressure, it is very easy to render someone unconscious just by your hands. So we can't talk about strangulation and sexual violence and physical violence without always talking about the power and control wheel. Like I said in a previous slide, strangulation is the ultimate form of control. I am telling you when you can take your next breath. I'm telling you if you can even take a next breath. So this is not that, oh, I'm going to control you. I was just in the stalking training, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm like thinking of all these things for strangulation, like how this also plays a part. And like it is the ultimate form, because how many times in this can using emotional abuse is that you can say, I'm going to make sure you take your last breath, but they're actually performing the act. So earlier this year, I did a little question with a hospital. I'm waiting for the end of this year. Sorry, friends. I just want to have a total number. So if you would like to know those total numbers, please get back to me and I will happily share them with you. So in a hospital in Ohio, they serve younger kiddos. And they saw within the first quarter, 36 patients. I don't even want to say within the first quarter, first quarter. First 3 months, they saw 36 patients with sexual violence. 16% of those patients were strangled. And then the ranges that of the patients that were strangled were ages 4 to 17. After one strangulation event, we talked about this, you're 7 times more likely to be killed by that person. 35% of adults who are strangled are also sexually assaulted. And this number, I think, is also very low reported because some people don't know they're sexually assaulted. And I pose this question to you is, if you are rendered unconscious, can you give consent? Can you say what can happen to your body? Or if you are being strangled and you feel like you are going to die, can you give informed consent for someone to do something to your body? So I think this number is very low because sometimes people don't know that they are. And then 70% of women believe they're going to die. This is where we see when they were over on top of me, their eyes were black. When they were on top of me, I saw through them. They were not the same person. They looked like they were a demon. They looked like they were, what is the word I'm trying to think of? Possessed. They looked like they were possessed. I will share with my own story. My mom is a survivor of strangulation and currently has a traumatic brain injury. And that was the biggest thing that she remembers with her brain injury. We make jokes about it. It is okay, y'all. We can make a joke about it. She laughs about it. Is it felt like I could see right through him and that he was possessed because his face changed. We know realistically, did his face change? Probably not. But it was in that moment that my mom thought she was going to die, and that is what she saw. So please listen to our survivors. Please listen to what they're saying. So in Ohio, we have our Ohio Domestic Violence Network. So Ohio Domestic Violence Network and myself are, we're sister coalitions. We're fun. I work very closely with our traumatic brain injury folks over there. If you have gone to any Novas, you've probably seen myself and Rachel Ramirez doing presentations. So we partner a lot. And one of the things that they do a fatality report every single year. So our fatality report is 157 fatalities and 108 cases. So I don't know about you, but there shouldn't be any. As someone who witnessed it, as someone who was in their own intimate partner violence relationship, this is 157 too many. So I really want to draw attention to that, as well as on the left hand or right hand side, I'm so sorry. We talk about 12% of perpetrators had a history of strangulation. 12% of them. 16% of perpetrators had a history of stalking. And then one police officer was shot. So there is this, I don't want to say trend. This research going on is the people that strangle becoming the people that also kill cops. As someone in this field, that is very important to know. Someone that works alongside law enforcement, that is super important to know. But also on a campus setting, that is really important to know, because there could be things happening in residence halls. There could be things happening. We live in an age of school shootings. I hate that we live in this age, especially having a child in this age. That was not I didn't grow up in that. So having this knowledge of that going on and the research going on behind it, it is super impactful. And I think it's something that should be shared widely. And that's just my own personal opinion. So where are these crimes being romanticized and accepted? Because they are. I'm not going to lie to you about it. I'm not going to lie to you and be like, as soon as someone says strangulation or choking, they're like, no way, Jose. We don't do that. That could kill someone. No, that I wish. That might make my job a little easier. But no, that doesn't happen. So in 2020, the statistics on Pornhub skyrocketed. Anyone within this field has probably heard it beaten to the ground many, 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 many times. That Pornhub skyrocketed in 2020. Why? Because we were all inside. But there was a category for choking. So younger folks are learning about this. This is something that people are watching and having a fantasy about. On top of, there is now a new, that I have learned about through people that I have worked with, a new category of consensual, non-consensual sex. So it is the act of they're giving consent, but they are pretending like they are not. So my question to you, especially people that work in college campuses, is if the students are watching this, how do they know when their partner stops giving consent? Because we know consent can be taken away anytime. Anyone, either party can say this, that we don't want to do it anymore. So there was also lots and lots of movies that came out from 2020, even to current. Even before 2020, how many times have we seen, I hate that I did it for research purposes, but like, who saw 50 Shades of Grey? There was times he put his hands around her neck to be sensual and shove her up against the wall or whatever he did. I will say I haven't watched it in a very long time because it irritates me. But I watched it for research purposes. And then there's another movie. It's on Netflix. It's called 365 DNI. If anyone wants to watch this for research purposes, do not let your children be around. If you have kiddos or young people in your house, there is a shower scene where he takes her. I'm going to play him. And they're in the shower, boo, 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 I love you so much. And he takes her by the neck and shoves her against the wall and like holds her up, and then they have sex. This is showing our young folks that this is what people want. This is, they want to be strangled in sex. They want that control to happen. when the conversation behind the lasting effects of strangulation is not happening. These are romanticized in the house. I will tell you, there has been a lot of times where people are like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that this was something bad. Like, I'm stopping right now. And it's like, that's okay. We don't know until we know. Just like sometimes with survivors, they don't know the criminal legal system until they're in it. That's okay. But now you know. So now you're stopping. And now you can have conversations with your friends saying, like, hey, we probably shouldn't be doing this anymore. Hulu. Hulu also has a lot of movies out. I forget the name of the main movie that I always list. But Hulu, I've been watching you. TikTok. Oh, TikTok. TikTok, I love it and I hate it at the same time because as an advocate and working with this, TikTok, people come to TikTok to share their story. My TikTok feed, and I was learning this because I am a baton coach for teenagers. And they were telling me last night, like um, yes, nip and tuck. I forgot about nip and tuck. There was also an episode on Grey's Anatomy about strangulation. She was strangled, and they did kind of like the hero walk with all women because she was sexually assaulted as well. And she didn't want any man to touch her. And they did kind of like the hero walk, and all the women lined the hallway for her to go and get, I think it was surgery. But these shows are just showing it, and people are watching it, and there's no question about it. Or they're saying, "Ooh, wow, I really want to do that." Um, but TikTok has come up with trends of the blackout challenge. If no one has heard of this, this is popular within the younger kids. So they are strangling themselves to the point where they are about to pass out to get a euphoric high without getting high, if that makes sense. So they're making themselves be deprived of oxygen, the brain be deprived, and they're feeling a very euphoric high, and then they bring themselves out of it. Saw it a lot in K through 12. It was when it popped up on my TikTok feed, it was a very infuriating thing because like I said, I have a kiddo. So then I'm like, what is the new thing on TikTok going to be when my kid gets older? The other thing is there is a song on Spotify, which there's a lot of songs that highlight strangulation, but there is a song on Spotify that there is a dance for it on TikTok. And you all will probably hear it and be like, it's a bop. It is. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and be like, this is not a good song. This doesn't have a good, beat behind it. But just like if any of you all were in the stalking presentation, they talked about the never gonna give you up, never gonna let you down. That song, that used to be like my mom used to sing it. And then I watched it today and I was like, oh my God, I've never seen that video. Holy moly. Um, so give me 1 second. I'm going to pull up the song and I want you all to tell me what you hear.
I'll choke you, but I ain't no killer, baby.
Did anybody hear that? Oh yeah, Amy. It's like, and you saw yes, it's always on the radio. So the first time I heard it, it wasn't even on my TikTok because my TikTok, from what my twirling girls have told me, is a grandma TikTok. I have people telling survivors telling their story, TikTok shop and murder mysteries. Um, and I heard it the first time on the radio, and my husband was like bopping to it. And like in the beginning, I'm like, oh, okay, this is a good song. All right. And like you see, when I played it, I was still like, there's a little bop to it. But in it, it says, I'll choke you, but I ain't no killer baby. So for one, he's admitting he'll choke you, which is strangulation, but I ain't no killer. How do you know? It only takes 10 seconds to occlude your carotid artery. So how are you not a killer? And our kids and even older generations, I've seen older people that are like doing the TikTok trend of the dance when the dance is literally like, it's like, I'll choke you, but I ain't no kill a baby or something like that. Y'all, I'm still I feel like I'm an old lady. So I don't really know the dance, but I know that they do the choke you and killa. Why? Why are we romanticizing and making light of strangulation? So here is something that I talked about in the beginning of the National Coalition for Sexual Freedom and why this isn't just a kink. So this highlights from from that coalition, they did a study from 2000 to 2024. They're currently doing another study right now. It's called the Choking Survey. Yes, I don't like how they named it, but it's okay. I digress. I'll get there one day. But I really want you all to look at it. So in 2011, 2012, 50 Shades of Grey was published in 2011. Look how high that skyrocketed. 10 deaths by sexual choking prior to 2009. There was only 10 deaths. And then look how high this increase from when 50 Shades of Grey was published. The pandemic, there says there was none. Really? And then there was harm caused by news reports. We can't just sit here and be like, oh, everything during the pandemic was beautiful. I don't know about y'all, but sometimes I forget what year it is because I am still in pandemic brain, excuse me. So this is super important that these people are dying from this. So it's not a kink that we need to be like, oh, okay, as long as you do it safely. There is no safe way to do it. There's other ways and other kinks that you can explore. And if your students come to you and say, well, I have this kink and blah, 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 point them to this. This is a great resource. They have blogs, which I will pull up next. They have blogs. They have different events. Like, please point your students to this and let them know that strangulation during sex is not safe. And I really wanted to read this. This came out this year. So there is a choking porn ban. If anyone knew, if no one didn't know, welcome to what Shelby researches. So research indicates that strangulation is the second most common cause of stroke in women under 40. So that is the people y'all are seeing. And that is more dangerous than waterboarding, a form of torture that is prohibited by international law. Given these potential consequences, some sexual violence experts argue that sexual strangulation can never be consensual. Women can't consent to long-term harm caused by it, such as impaired cognitive functioning and memory. Andrea Simon, director of End Violence Against Women Coalition, told me there is no such thing as safe strangulation, because there's not. There is no such thing. So signs and symptoms to look for when you are working with a survivor that has indicated to you, maybe they were strangled, who has indicated to you, hey, they put, their hands on me, or just, are you seeing them and you know the survivor? Maybe they have come into your office many of times and you know them for them. So here are some signs to look for. So do they have bruising on their neck? I'm going to use Bertha for that. Do they have bruising on their neck? It's kind of hard to see her bruising. It's starting to wear off. Are there scratch marks on their neck? Does anyone know why there would be scratch marks on their neck? Anybody? Yes, fingernails, trying to remove their hands. Yes, Kitty, exactly, defensive. So when I started learning about this, there was this one picture that has never left my mind. And I went to a presentation with Dr. Smock, and he was like, there was this case where the perpetrator was strangling, and the survivor was scratching so hard to get him off. She had only a couple of scratches on her, but he looked like he was mauled by a tiger. And when I tell you, because they have a picture within this training of the perpetrator as he's getting arrested, he looks like he was mauled by a tiger. So what did they do? They charged the survivor of assault and the perpetrator. But either way, the survivors still got charged for just trying to defend themselves and trying to get this person off of them. There has also been scratch marks that they're not as wild as that one. You might just see them on the sides of their neck or by their nose. So ask them, hey, was that something that you did? Was there something on your neck that you were trying to get off of you? Do you notice petechiae? So petechiae is a rupture of blood vessels. So a great way to think of this is if you have a red balloon or any kind of balloon, whatever color is your favorite, and you blow it, and it pops. So when you are being strangled, that is what is happening to your blood vessels. Blood is pooling in those blood vessels. They're pulling, and then they pop. So we always see petechiae above the area of where it happened. So if I do have petechiae in Bertha. So I'm strangling Bertha on her neck, doing manual, 2 hands, because, that's just how I roll. So if you look, if you look, Bertha has some petechiae right here above her eye. I don't know if she has any on her nose. Oh, it's kind of rubbing off. Sorry, she needs her makeup redone. On her nose. So there's petechiae above the area that it occurred. So the strangulation occurred on her neck. The petechiae is on her face. Sometimes it could be behind their ears, in the roofs of their mouths, even in their eyes. There could be petechiae within their corners of their eyes. So ask them, hey, was there something put on your neck? Was there any pressure applied to your neck? Because we also see if someone is getting over the flu or is pregnant. People can burst blood vessels in their eyes by throwing up. So ask those questions. Are they constantly rubbing their neck or throat? I put this in here because this is something that I noticed when I was working with a survivor. So I had a survivor that was talking to me. I'll jump down because it fits. Her voice sounded completely different. So her voice, she had a cute little mousy voice, and her voice sounded like she smoked 12 packs of Marlboro Reds a day. And she kept constantly rubbing her neck, and she was doing this and like trying to crack it and just rubbing it. And so I asked her, I was like, is everything okay? Did anything happen last night? And she was like, yeah, I went to my abuser's house. I know you're going to be mad at me about it. And I'm like, I'm not mad at you. I'm not we understand that happens. And she was like, and he strangled me. And when I came to, there was wetness on me. I don't know what happened. I think I started my menses. I don't know. So as soon as I heard he put his hands around her neck, I immediately was like, we need to go to the hospital because her voice sounded horrible. As well as she kept saying her neck was in pain. So these are big indicators that they need to go and get seen by a medical professional. I'm not a medical professional. I can't sit here and be like, that's a severe case of strangulation. They need a CTA. The CTA is going to come out that there is a carotid dissection. I don't know. As an advocate, I know that they are showing these symptoms of strangulation, and they need to get seen by someone that has that medical, brain. Unlike me, that's like, I want to burn it down. So are they complaining of neck or throat pain, even internal? So if there is strangulation, they might have swelling of their vocal cords or just swelling in general, and that might hurt. So are they complaining of that? Are they experiencing any bleeding they didn't have prior to the incident? So the survivor I was talking about thought she started her menstrual cycle. She didn't. It was actually from the sexual violence. She didn't even know she was sexually assaulted until we did the forensic exam. I had her go just because I wanted her to get a CTA, but when they did their examination, they were like, she was sexually assaulted. So it was one of those things that we were both very glad that we did it. Do they remember their abuser choking them? So we see it a lot of they were choking me and then I came to in the living room, or they were choking me and then I came to and they were playing a video game, or running out the house. So that is important because that shows that the survivor has lost consciousness. So if you were to, there's a beautiful thing on the Strangulation Training Institute that you can see it, but I will give you the very dulled down version. The instant of strangulation starts, they pass out, they lose loss of bowel and bladder control, they die. So there is, you know, just very Strangulation Training Institute, I will say, does it more beautifully than me, but I like to dumb it down for my brain, my advocate brain, to be like, okay, if they were unconscious, that means that they were very close to losing bowel and bladder control. If they are possibly have a wetness on them, could that be urine or feces? Oh, okay, they were very close to death. We need to go to the hospital. Remember, if you are working, and this is no shame on active duty military. As someone who is a granddaughter of a veteran and a sister of an active duty military person, this is no shame on it. But if you are working with an active duty or reserve military member, especially within college campuses, there is ROTC. They are trained in strangulation as a form of hand-to-hand lethal combat. So you might not notice if there is bruising, or if the perpetrator has done it, if there is any marks, or if the survivor feels comfortable talking about it. Because if they're also in ROTC with them, that might cause them some bullying, some hazing, things that they shouldn't have, if you want my honest opinion. So why is it important that we talk about kiddos? I know you all are a college community, but these children, if they are strangled, they will be coming to college one day. They will be possibly having side effects from the strangulation. So it's important to also, even if you have young kiddos in your life that you care about or know, it's important to recognize these signs. Fun fact, if none of you all knew, which I feel like you all knew, but kids have anatomical differences than adults. Their necks are a lot more wiggly, and they're a lot lighter than us. So they are able to be lifted off the ground easier. Hence why you see all of us moms or grandmas or aunts picking up the kids, and not picking up one of our friends. Most of the time, the parent or someone the child knows is the perpetrator. And that is the hardest and saddest things. A lot of things with kids, it is told, as we see, like with sexual violence, is this is just our secret. It's just our game. And kiddos might not understand why this is not a good secret, why this is when there is no good secrets. Fun fact, with my child, we do surprises. But they don't understand why this isn't a game. And then they do it on other people. Or they're told, this is a thing that is very, very holds true. They're told their family would be harmed if they told. That is something that happened with me when I witnessed violence. Like one of the things was, if you say anything, I'm going to kill your mom. And guess who didn't say anything? Because I didn't want my mom to die. These crimes also happen at schools. We send our children to school. We send the kiddos we love in our lives to school, but these also happen because there's kiddos that is being told that this is a game and they're doing it to their classmates. There is also other adults within the schools that could be doing this. So it is really important to have a conversation with the kiddos in your life of saying like, we don't have secrets. If it's a birthday or something, it's a surprise, but we don't hold secrets from each other. So just a couple of tips, because hey, I'm not going to be like, look at all these things. I'm going to teach you all of this and not give you a little bit of tips for if you have some kiddos in your life. So at the end of the day, believe them. A kid is not going to come to you and be like, I was strangled. Like, that is not something in their normal memory. If it is, maybe ask some questions, but please believe them. Have age-appropriate conversations with them. I'm not going to have a conversation about consent with my 4-year-old the same way I'm going to have a conversation about consent with my 14-year-old baton twirlers. I'm not having conversations about consent with them because their parents do that, but see what I'm saying. Involve the non-offending parent or caregiver. They're feeling a loss of control and safety. I don't know about y'all, but I was humbled by this. As an advocate, I am never not learning. I am not perfect. I make mistakes. And there was a case that I had, and the parent was like, can you just put us in a group chat because I would love to really know what's going on because I feel out of control with this and I don't know what's going on and it's stressing me out. And I was like, oh my gosh. Yes, absolutely. Why didn't I think of that? And it's just because as advocates and people that work with survivors are so focused on what the survivor needs, we also don't think about those secondary survivors. Bring fidget toys. You can go on Amazon. If you have the funds, go on Amazon, I got a pack of like 150, I think, probably down to like 130 now because some have broken. But bring fidget toys. Bring something for them to fidget with. Bring something for you to fidget with. It is okay that you need to fidget. Sit at a kiddo's level. So right now we are at level. If I were to give it a minute. Okay, you're a kid now. And I'm talking over you like this. Can you tell me all about your strangulation? Can you tell me all about what happened to you? Can you tell me all about what A, B, or C did to you? Are you going to talk to me and feel more comfortable talking to me like this? Or when you're at eye level with me and we can sit and we can have a conversation? Talk with them and the parent or caregiver about you. Fun fact, we're human, y'all. Did you know that? Sometimes I forget. Sometimes I'm like, oh, wow, I have a whole life about this outside of this. So it is okay. I tell my clients, hey, I am very open with my clients about my autoimmune disease. So I'll be like, hey, I'm getting my medicine today. I let them know, weeks in advance, but I also let them know, that week and that day of like, hey, I'm getting my medicine today. I'm not going to be able to respond, but leave me a text or a call and I will, get back to you on Monday. We're human. Tell them about something you enjoy. Maybe you might get a connection with the child or the caregiver. Ask open-ended questions, but be comfortable with silence. So don't sit there and be like, do you like games? Do you like yellow? No, because then that makes it awkward. So ask some questions like, hey, can you tell me about your favorite subject in school? And they tell you about it. Tell me a little bit more about why you like that subject. Ask some things because then when you start asking questions about what happened to them, it might be a little more easier for them to open up. But also remember they're processing what just happened to them as well. You are there to support them and believe them. Remember your role. At the end of the day, we are coming in as advocates as just to support them. So we talked about kiddos. Now let's talk about the military. Because we have some ROTC people in our campuses. We should have some on every campus, I think. I might be wrong about that. So what are the numbers saying? So this was the fiscal year 2024 report. So the total reports was 5,169 of unrestricted reports. Of restricted reports, there was 3,026, and total reports was 8,195. So you can see how it broke down into this. But the thing I want to share is what does this look like and how many of these survivors could have been seen on your campus? So if you're having veterans that come into your campus and are using their GI Bill, could they have been one of these people in these statistics? Because we know statistics aren't just a number, there's a face behind them. Now, it does say in the military that from fiscal year 2023 to fiscal year 2024, there was a 4% decrease. Was there? Hopefully. Or was there less reporting? So how many of these folks could have walked in your office? So a little bit more of advocacy tips, and we're going to talk more about people of color, military, and elder. So remember the untranslatability. So they might not have the same exact match or word or phrase when you're saying, hey, where you're strangled. Some languages might not have that verbiage. So remember that. Bruising may vary depending on the individual and their skin tone. So as you can see here, this survivor has a lot of petechiae, a lot of could be bruising, but look at that petechiae. I don't know if you can see, if you could, maybe. Oh, my mouse said, I'm not coming on this side. Oh, so you can see right here is a lot of petechiae. Here's some petechiae in their eyes. Bruising, you cannot depend on the severity of the bruising because some people might not bruise the same way. Cultural awareness, I don't know about y'all, but as someone that is in a culture that I grew up in a culture of what happens behind closed doors stays behind closed doors. When the things that happened to my mom, it was hard for her to come forward. There are cultures that if you go against the man of the house, of the person of the church, you are done. You are out. So this might be hard for survivors to come forward and disclose because that is their lifeline right there. That is the person providing food, shelter, water, basic necessities to survive. So coming against them and coming after them might not be the smartest thing for them. Make sure that survivor safety needs are addressed before going further with medical needs. So we have seen, especially in rural communities, sometimes the perpetrator drives them to the hospital. I remember listening to the survivor in a symposium I went to. She was amazing. I forget her name, but her story, it just sticks with me. And they actually did, I think it was on The Evil That Lives Here or something like that. It was on one of those shows that talks about crimes. But her perpetrator actually took her to the hospital because she promised him she was going to say that she got into a car accident. So the perpetrator took her to the hospital, and when she got out of the car, she told the perpetrator, if you think I'm telling them I got in a car accident, you're stupid, and it was more vulgar than that, and as it should be. And she ran it, and she was able to receive assistance. But sometimes we see in rural counties that the perpetrator might be bringing them. Maybe the perpetrator's family might work at the hospital. Maybe the perpetrator's family might work on campus. So it's very important to talk about safety with the survivor when they come forward and disclose. So what are some advocacy tips that we can talk about for later in life adults? Scratches over nostrils. So I almost did it to myself, y'all. So are their nose being plugged, or is there a pillow being put over their face? Rib fractures. We see this because sometimes for suffocation, people are sitting on top of them with a pillow over their face. So do they have any rib fractures? Oh, sorry, friends. I did not mean to do that. My bad. Got excited and I hit the space bar. Cuts inside their lips where their lips are pushed against their teeth. This is also really important too to note with anyone that has braces. If you have braces on your teeth and your lips are being shoved against your teeth, there's going to be marks. So please, make sure that's getting addressed when they're with their forensic nurse. This crime is looked over in adults due to ageism. So sorry, friends, due to ageism or not wanting to admit and talk about the subject. Just like I don't want to talk. So I have a grandmother that is currently in a hospice facility. So she is in facilities where a lot of this is happening. Not the facility she's in, but facilities in general. I don't want to talk about this because I don't want to think about it happening to my grandmother. But I do talk about it because at the same time, if something is happening to my grandmother, I want someone to come forward and say, hey, this shouldn't be happening. This is happening. We need to get something ahead of it. So we want to make sure that we are having the conversation, even though sometimes it is very uncomfortable. we're going to have, as advocates, uncomfortable conversations, but it could save a life. Within the military, when you are safety planning with someone, it is vastly different than a civilian. I learned this the hard way by working with someone that was in the military, and I was doing my typical normal safety plan, and I was like, okay, make sure you have your documents in the trunk or put them in your desk and blah, blah, blah. I forgot that they need to have a military ID. If they have any military protective orders, they need to have that, or civilian protective orders, because fun fact, they're two separate things. Isn't that fun? Command contact information, if that's a safe person to contact, the military legal office for the JAG attorneys, and then medical information such as TRICARE. So we cannot talk about strangulation without talking about brain injury, because strangulation is a trauma to the neck. Brain injury is a trauma to the head or face or neck. You see where I'm going with this, friends? I hope so. So we had to talk about traumatic brain injury. And I'm also going to throw traumatic brain injury tips in there because we might also see people in our offices, students might be coming to us with this. So this is a brain brain dysfunction caused by an outside force, usually a violent blow to the head. So this could look like a hit. We hear it in sports with tackles, soccer, wrestling. It could be sports, but this could also be very just like a fight or a physical altercation. Traumatic brain injury might be a buzzword that you think of within NFL or wrestling, like WWE, because there has been so many things that have come out about brain injury and CTE with the wrestling, World Wrestling something. WWE. I'll just use that. Fun fact, this does not just happen within NFL. This also happens within domestic violence. It could also happen within sexual violence, because this could go hand in hand with strangulation, because they could be strangling the survivor and hitting their head repeatedly against a wall or a floor or another object. So how can you advocate for a survivor who possibly has a traumatic brain injury? At the end of the day, y'all, my words are getting wordy. So what are some signs and symptoms that you might notice with a survivor? So they might have sensitivity to light, agitation to loud sounds or certain high-pitched sounds, pain in their head more than just a headache, forgetfulness, ringing in their ears, migraines, visibility at night, and muscle weakness. So one thing I always talk about is if you are working with a survivor and they come into, say you're responding to a call to report to a hospital, and they come into the hospital, they mention they were drinking the night before, they mention possibly getting hit on the head, but they say they have, let's remove the visibility at night and muscle weakness. What do you think the hospital is going to say they have? Yes, migraines. Anything else? Has anyone gone a little too hard one night and drank a little too much and been like, oh yeah, the sunlight was extra bright that next day, and closing the cabinet was so loud and I had the worst headache and I didn't remember how I got from one place to another. Yes, Rhonda, a hangover. So we've seen this, especially in younger folks. If they report drinking, sometimes they get dismissed as having a hangover. So it is very important. And I will say, Amy, you brought up a wonderful thing. So not a wonderful thing, but a wonderful share thing. So my mom, I mentioned earlier, she's a survivor of strangulation and has a traumatic brain injury. For my mom, her last incident of a blow to her head was in 2009. I want to say that might age me. 2009. She just got diagnosed last year. So in 2024, she got diagnosed. Because all they kept saying, because she had all of these symptoms. And it took her that long. They just would say, oh, you have migraines. Oh, you have hormonal migraines because you're a woman. Oh, you have migraines. And it would get to the point where sometimes we would have to retrain my mom how to walk. My mom is just now starting to drive from 2 years ago, because it took her 2 years from her last. She passed out taking the trash out. She was just taking the trash out, and called me and was like, hey, I'm going to the hospital. And I was like, huh? And she was like, I woke up in the trash can. And I was like, you're not really giving me anything here, Mom. And she passed out. She was just putting the trash in the trash can, passed out, woke up in the trash can. And they said that it was an episode from the traumatic brain injury. But she had all of these other symptoms. So it took me even arguing with a doctor, because they also tried to, give her the MS diagnosis. But it took me arguing with a doctor, and a doctor just telling me, well, it's probably her mental health. It's probably her anxiety. And I'm like, I literally train people on this. I do so much research. I wish you could see all the tabs on my computer. And they still minimized her. So imagine, this is someone coming out of the abuse since 2009, being finally believed in 2024. Imagine a student coming forward that might not be in their hometown, that might be very nervous, coming forward and saying that this is all happening to them and they had a blow to their head, and then being told, oh, well, you probably just have a hangover, or you probably just have a migraine. So do you think, and this is not me saying y'all don't do it, because I know y'all do. You're here because you're great. But having this conversation with our partners and saying, hey, when someone comes forward, we should really probably listen to them and not discredit them. Because if we're shutting them down for maybe they got a hit in the head, are they going to come forward and say, yeah, and there's also sexual violence? Or something happens to them and they come forward and say, hey, I was sexually assaulted. If they weren't believed was talking about something of a traumatic brain injury or a blow to the head, face or neck, they're not going to come and say, oh, I'm definitely going to be believed for this. We see that all the time. So it's really, really important to please listen to the people that you're working with. So these people are the people that need you to start having the uncomfortable conversations. So we talked about kiddos. We talked about people of color. We talked about military. And these are the three cases. You probably know two of the cases on here. If any of you are from Ohio, you probably know Aisha. But these are Gabby Petito was a huge case. Huge case that was talked about for strangulation. Vanessa Guillen, she was strangled when she was murdered. Rachel Price, we talked about her in the beginning of our presentation. We have Aisha Frazier. She was the wife of, I forget his last name or his name, but I don't want to give power to his name. So maybe that's, my brain being like, we don't give power to that. But he was a judge in Cuyahoga County and sat on the Supreme Court of Ohio. And he strangled her to the point where she needed reconstruction surgery. And the court still granted him time to see his children. So when she dropped off the children, he murdered her in front of them. Which really, it's one of those things like, come on, there was signs. There was signs. There is Chandra. She is the aunt of someone I worked with another agency. She was murdered this summer by her husband. He reported her missing, and within 24 hours, they found her body within one of our nature parks, and she was strangled. And then the beautiful little girl on the bottom is Mia Gonzalez. She was strangled by her father, and she was murdered. So while these conversations are hard to have, these conversations are sometimes uncomfy. Sometimes they want to make you burn everything to the ground. these people need you to start having them because there could be so many more people on this slide. I didn't want to overwhelm you with people on this slide, but there could be this whole presentation could just be slides of people that have lost their life to strangulation. So we need to start having those conversations. I can't sit here and be like this. Advocating for these cases and learning about these cases is just a walk in the park. It is so peachy. It is so wonderful without being like, no, I told y'all in the beginning, I'm a real me. So I'm going to talk about the frustrations that I've noticed. Frustrations I've had. We watch our survivors retell their story over and over and over again, and it takes a toll on them because if they don't tell it precisely right, they immediately get marked as lying. People don't believe them because there aren't any marks. So I will tell you, there are people that have gone through a strangulation event that look exactly like me. Not a single mark on them. And then there's people that have that typical look of when you Google strangulation, of the bruises, the eyes, the blah, 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 blah. That is not normal. Normally, there is not marks. So a lot of people aren't believed because there aren't any. They don't believe the seriousness of the injury because it wasn't the first time it happened. Remember in the very beginning, one of the things that it said was, oh, this is normal or something like that. We have seen that, this is something that this could be a typical Tuesday for them. And that's unfortunate. But we need to make sure that every time they tell us, we take it as serious every single time. The perpetrator doesn't get charged for strangulation. I'm going through this right now with the current case. It is absolutely infuriating. They don't know that they were sexually assaulted due to being unconscious. Remember, we talked about that. They're told it is just a headache. I can't tell you how many times my mom was told that. This is just a headache. This is just a migraine. They aren't believed due to their age, race, or class. They're not believed because they're a kid. They're not believed because, in this world right now, it is a scary world for someone that is not a typical white woman or even white women. For a white man, it is a scary world. So they're not going to be believed because of how they look, how they talk, where they work, if they work or if they don't work, if they receive government assistance. And I would like to think that we lived in a world that isn't like it, but I have seen it firsthand where it is. So where can we go from here? I don't know about y'all, but every time I give this presentation, I'm like, I want to just go kick a door down. I want to go hug my kid, kick a door down, flip a table. While it might feel good for 5 minutes, where can we actually go from here? So I always ask the key questions. Watch for signs for your survivors and educate them when it's the appropriate time. Train and learn. There is always trainings that you can do on the Strangulation Training Institute. If you're like, Shelby, this training was great, great. Call me, email. I'm like Kim Possible. I'll say it in the next slide again. But I can come and give your campus this training. And at the end of the day, please, 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 no matter what you do, believe the survivors. Believe the survivors in your life. Believe the survivors coming to you. They think that you are a safe person and they truly believe you are a safe person. And all you need to do is believe them. So please do that. And just a thing that you can take in your brain. What are some things that you can tangibly do today, the next week or month for survivors that you work with strangulation? And I am right on time. Look at this. Thank you. If you all need me, please call me. Please text me. Please send me an email. I am like Kim Possible. Call me, beat me if you want to reach me. I am always here. If I'm not here, I will get back to you when I am. But we also, Connor put our OAESV org website in the chat. Since we are the federally designated coalition for the state of Ohio, we are doing some really, really cool things. Please look at our website. And we just really appreciate you all for being here. I appreciate you all for being here so much. You 48 of you took time out of your day today to sit with me, to hear something hard, to deal with my goofiness, to deal with me in general. And I am so thankful for all of you and so thankful for the work that you do and that you continue to do and the knowledge that you have gained today. So thank you. I see all the thank yous in the chat. If you have any questions, this is how to reach me. Connor, I'm out. Bam.
Thanks, Shelby. I'm going to stop the recording now. Bye, y'all.